From the far reaches of the Milky Way galaxy, it's Retro Nerd Girl with a film review for you. Today I'll be reviewing the movie Goldfinger, released in 1964, starring Sean Connery, Gert Frobe, and Honor Blackman. Directed by Guy Hamilton. The synopsis is: James Bond has been sent out on a mission to find out what international jeweler Auric Goldfinger is up to for some gold that has been unaccounted for. Unfortunately, Goldfinger's plans are quite deadly. The story. James Bond was created by writer Ian Fleming, who wrote 12 novels and 2 short stories published between 1953 and 1966. Harry Saltzman and Albert R. Broccoli of Eon Productions got the rights to adapt Ian Fleming's novels. The studio released adaptations of Dr. No in 1962 and From Russia with Love in 1963. Both directed by Terence Young, starring Sean Connery as the iconic Playboy spy, James Bond, Bernard Lee as M, and Lois Maxwell as Miss Moneypenny. Terence Young worked on the movie during the early stages of production, but then he left the production after contract negotiations fell through. Guy Hamilton, who had been offered the first James Bond film, was brought in to finally direct this one and bring his unique talent to the franchise. The story's imbued with the formula of the Bond narrative, providing many moments of subtle surprise that I personally enjoy. The pacing. At an hour and 50 minutes, it feels long and uneven because there's a lot of twists and turns that occur. The action in the story keeps you hooked in, and I feel like it really worked for me. However, if you're the impatient sort, there are a few moments where it gets a little talkative and where there's a little bit more exposition than you'd expect. Now for the challenge. The titular character of Goldfinger was rumored to be originally based on the Hungarian-born architect Erno Goldfinger, who was a part of the modernist architectural movement in the late 1930s, 40s, and 50s. There have been other speculations that Goldfinger was based on a German spy who tried to rob the Bank of England during World War I, and about the time Ian Fleming was a high-ranking officer in the naval intelligence. In the film, international jeweler Auric Goldfinger is our main villain, and Auric means of gold. I thought that was a nice little clever detail. At first it seems Goldfinger is probably the most tropey villain of all time, giving us a sense that he's simply a spoiled man-child that wants what he wants, without deep purpose. The opening title song, sung by the incomparable Dame Shirley Bassey, gives us the most insight into his mind. He's a dangerous man who loves gold. Only gold. And you can easily assume that he's really lighthearted and jovial at first glance, and that makes it really hard to take him seriously. But, and it's because he enjoys playing games. However, the twist in this is that he must win at all cost. In the opening scene, we see him take his revenge on his informant, Jill Masterson, because she helps Bond make him lose a card game. It seems quite petty. Bond is the one responsible for making him lose the card game, so why does he let Bond live and kill Jill Masterson? Well, it's really simple. Jill was made an example of what happens when a person betrays him to set up his danger in the story. Goldfinger is not stupid enough to kill an MI6 agent. He only wants to scare him, but it's only until he's pushed to it that he finally decides to give the order to kill 007. Goldfinger is one of the godfathers of the evil villain tropes that we see in movies today. He was written to be theatrically enjoyable for the audience, but not very realistic. He announces his Operation Grand Slam. Okay, this is a master plan to steal all of the gold from Fort Knox to a group of criminals that he gathers together. He even goes through an elaborate turn of events to kill one of these goons who actually decides to opt out of the plan. However, it made absolutely no difference to the story because he ends up killing all of the men just a few minutes later. And perhaps it was all a part of a sadistic plan to toy with them before killing them in order to test the efficiency of a toxic gas he's planning on using. However, it just seems as if the entire scene was just meant to inform the audience and 007 what Goldfinger was up to. And there's yet another scene where Goldfinger tells James Bond directly what he's planning. And what is he planning, by the way? Being a jeweler, he is able to smuggle a lot of gold out of England and America by melting it down and hiding it through customs. This is a very sneaky plan, but that is not enough. He wants to change the world economy. So Goldfinger has a bigger and more dangerous plan, which is to use planes to kill thousands of people with a deadly gas and then detonate a radioactive device so that way all of the gold in Fort Knox will be worthless for 58 years. And this will increase the value of his own gold. And whether or not, the character of Goldfinger makes sense or not, I must say that the personality of Goldfinger is definitely a pleasure to watch on screen. Of the villains in this movie, Goldfinger's number one man is Oddjob, the guy for all odd jobs. And he is truly well named because he is Goldfinger's henchman, but he also acts as his chauffeur, his butler, his assistant in all of Goldfinger's devious matters. He doesn't speak much, but he makes up for that by being incredibly intimidating and a no-nonsense character as he crushes golf balls in his hands and uses his hat as a flying guillotine. He's truly scary indeed. And these are exactly the kind of villains that a hero like Bond needs to give the audience a thrilling adventure. I absolutely love Goldfinger and Oddjob, especially together as a team. One thing in particular that I enjoyed immensely in this film is the music cues that happen every single time Oddjob appears on screen, which enhances the intimidation of his character. Love that. Now the empathy. A little history on Bond, in case you didn't know. He is an intelligence officer in the Secret Intelligence Service, commonly known as MI6. Bond is known by his code number 007 and was a Royal Naval Reserve commander. Every once in a while, he's actually referred to as Commander Bond in the series of films. But boy, do I love Bond in this film. He is just so smooth. And, to start the film, Bond stops a heroin plant from secretly stuffing drugs into bananas and going global with their takeover. At the same time, he meets up with his beautiful love interest, a belly dancer, at a nightclub. And unfortunately, she sets him up to be murdered. And Bond stops his attackers because he can see a reflection of his attackers in the dancer's pupils. And this was actually parodied in the film Austin Powers' The Spy Who Shagged Me, which, just generates so many laughs. Back to the story, however, this is Bond. He would have skills like this to pull off something like this. He's just a stickler for the details. For instance, he's an alcohol expert, and he shows it off at any opportunity he gets. This is a part of his job to know details astutely. And it's a great character study and also a little nugget about his personality. What is entailed in the job of being James Bond, knowing and being astute at small details. And I love that. I love that. But Bond, I have to say, is one of my favorite heroes of all time. He's really kind of a cool character. His presentation in this movie is, in my eyes, quite excellent. Now, Bond is a ladies' man, as usual, but you feel as if he has a genuine chemistry with the women that he encounters in this film. He's just that much of a charmer, but for many of the women that he charms, there's a purpose to it, of getting closer to his target. He cares about them, and when they meet their end, you sense that he's just that more driven to stop the bad guy from victimizing others. So you get the sense that the deaths of the Masterson sisters in this film has put Bond on a personal vendetta against Goldfinger. Now, personally, I've never had a problem with Bond being a womanizer. It's fine. In his line of work, he really can't afford the luxury of falling in love. But it's sort of a nice concept that, every once in a while when he meets a woman, there's a little bit of a challenge. Like, they're not really interested in him. And then enters the character Pussy Galore. And yes, she does become a love interest, but she's not ready to take on his charms immediately. She seems impervious, in fact, in the beginning. She is actually a very smart and tough businesswoman who is not very easily charmed. In this movie, they actually don't mention her sexual orientation, but in the book, she was supposed to be a lesbian. But, her motivations in this film is that she's all business, in hopes of retiring to an island one day when she's made enough money. And she doesn't really relax her guard till her boss, Goldfinger, gives her the order to entertain Bond. Although she doesn't dominate a lot of screen time, Pussy Galore really goes down as one of the most impressive and complex female characters on screen in the Sean Connery era of Bond films. Now, the technical aspects. The film took 19 weeks to shoot at Pinewood Studios outside London, which accounts for some of the chroma key backgrounds of Miami Beach in the beginning of the film. The technique was not mastered at this point, so it's a little jarring when it's on screen, especially where there are scenes of moving objects in the windows of cars. Technically, the film is a product of 1964. It isn't filmed with groundbreaking special effects, but what it does is use the tools of its day to tell the story. Now you can see that certain moments of the film was sped up to keep with the pacing, and you know what? I don't mind that at all. And there's something realistically gritty and basic about the fight scenes. It's not over the top, but it conveys the physical conflict of being in a fight. Also, this was the first appearance of a laser beam in a movie. So cool, because I love laser beams, and this was the first time. So I guess there was a groundbreaking special effect in the film, and that scene in particular has one of the best lines in the movie. Do you expect me to talk? No, I expect you to die. I love this movie. Now, the map scene is also another quite memorable scene in the film, and it's an impressive scene with a wonderful miniature replica of Fort Knox. And it's so accurate that Goldfinger's 3D model map is now housed as a permanent exhibition at the real Fort Knox. Now let's talk about that wonderful title song, Goldfinger, sung by Dame Shirley Bassey. Wow, this was truly a magnificent song. It has so much drama in the orchestral horns and drawn out lyrics telling us all about our villain, and it's just big and bold, and It became sort of the trademark of the series to have such a big title song. And it's the first Bond film to feature a title song that plays over the opening credits. And that really set the tone not only for the film, but future films. It just a great turn of events when that song appeared on screen. Now, the enjoyment when it was released, it was received quite well. This movie was so popular that some theaters were actually holding showings for 24 hours a day to meet the demand. And it was the fastest growing movie when it was released and entered into the Guinness Book of World Records for that year. And as well, it won the first Academy Award for a James Bond movie for Best Sound Effects. It was actually the first Bond movie to be shown on U.S. television in 1972, earning the highest Nielsen ratings for a single movie on television up to that time. That's pretty impressive. And ABC, which showed the movie, retained the exclusive commercial U.S. television rights to the Bond film franchise series for the next 28 years. My first time seeing the film was on TV, sometime during the 70s, as well as many other Bond movies of the time, and it was great. I also had the benefit of my mom being a big fan of the franchise and bonding with me while watching the film, because when she saw this Bond film, she was a teenager. It was really a sweet love of the franchise that she passed on to me. And this movie, of all of its iconic moments and all of the notes that it hits in the film as being an iconic film, is definitely the reason why I absolutely love Goldfinger. My rating is an 8.7. Well, that sums up my review. I hoped you liked it. If you did, I've got almost 100 of these videos, so go on ahead and browse the channel to see more reviews from me like this. Subscribe if you haven't done so already, and hit the bell icon to be the first to be notified of my next video. This is Retro Nerd Girl signing off. Take care, movie lovers. I'm off to my next review.